Hi, I'm Sage, and today we're going to talk about consumer theory, specifically something called the diamond water paradox. This was first introduced in the 1700s by a famous economist named Adam Smith. Sounds intriguing, right? We will also discuss how marginal utility and other variables help explain this paradox. The diamond water paradox is also referred to as the paradox of value. And even though economist Adam Smith extensively talked about it in his book, he never really unraveled the paradox to its full extent, like we will today. To begin, let's talk about water. Getting a large enough amount of water to sustain a human life has a relatively low price compared to some sparkly diamond jewelry. We must ask ourselves, why is there such a higher value placed on something that is not vital to sustaining human life? The practical things we use in life, like socks, cups, utensils, water, those things are relatively cheap compared to baseball cards, art, diamonds. So we ask, what's up with this? What are the variables that are causing the discrepancy in price? What's been found is that marginal utility and scarcity are the biggest factors. Marginal utility is the additional satisfaction or gain someone gets from using one more unit of a particular good or service. People are usually willing to pay higher prices for goods with higher marginal utility. Scarcity, on the other hand, is how readily available a good or service is. It's determined by supply and demand, and the more rare a good or service is, the more money you pay for it. Scarcity is used to evaluate all economic goods. An economic good has two attributes. It must be a human need or want, and it must be able to command a price when sold. For example, good weather is not an economic good. Even if you know that the sun shining bright will make you feel better, it cannot be controlled or sold. However, water and diamonds are an economic good. Scarcity is a factor when there is an insufficient quantity to satisfy all human wants and desires for a product or service. Bringing these definitions into perspective of our paradox, there is plenty of water in most parts of the world with a low scarcity, which generates a low marginal utility for water. Diamonds are rare, and therefore they're very scarce and have a high marginal utility. They're harder to find, attain, and produce. One additional topic we should discuss is consumer surplus. This assumption is that consumers maximize utility, which leads to a downward sloping demand curve. The geometry of a downward sloping demand curve implies that people will buy less of a good as the price rises. As an item grows more abundant, its total use value to consumers, which is the area under the demand curve, rises, but its price, or its marginal value to consumers, declines. Adam Smith and his early followers had trouble unraveling this paradox because they missed the distinction between marginal and total value. And that explains why diamonds are so much more monetarily valuable than water in today's society. However, there are exceptions to this paradox. For example, let's say you've been walking through the desert for days on end, no water, and someone offers you one glass of water or one diamond bracelet. Your marginal utility for that glass of water is going to be a lot higher in that moment than for the diamond bracelet, and this would result in the water being preferred in this instance. Getting back to our friend Adam Smith, he points out in his book Wealth of Nations that there's a difference between value in use and value in exchange. Diamonds have a higher value in exchange. You can trade them for almost anything. However, water has more value in use. Interestingly, scientists have recently discovered that Uranus and Neptune have oceans of liquid carbon with giant diamond icebergs floating in them. On these planets, the marginal utility and scarcity of water and diamonds might very well be reversed. And that's it. Now you know all about the diamond water paradox. Thank you for joining me.